The Wolverine probably isn't the first superhero to come to mind when you think of comic book characters known as role models. So, is he really the ideal figure to put at the center of commentary on perhaps the biggest pop culture phenomenon of the last century? Well, to a certain degree, yes. Logan is known for being the edgy, R-rated, convention-defying black sheep of superhero films. But these aren't the only things that make it deviate from genre norms. There's a bleak complexity behind the film's narrative that reflects our own society's gradual disillusionment with the superhero phenomenon. To get a better look at this sort of meta-commentary, we need look no further than the film's band of main characters. Let's start with Logan himself. From the very beginning of the film, we meet a disheveled and depressed old man who couldn't look further from being a superhero. Within mere moments, our supposed hero lies broken on the ground. This is someone who has seen his better days, and he represents that feeling of fatigue in all of us, and that feeling that we haven't just outgrown our innocence, but that we've buried it. Then we have Charles Xavier. Charles is that sort of monolithic symbol of age-old inspiration, hope, and astonishment. He's not just an old-timer because of his age. His whole worldview seems almost lost in time. He's seen mutants and the near entirety of his friends perish in a world that has grown unimaginably dark in the wake of heroic values dying out. But just as with Logan, we can also connect with Charles. We often find ourselves looking back on timeless stories of greatness and heroism with an overwhelming sense of nostalgia, and we want to live to see both the best and worst times through. Finally, we're left with Laura. Despite having claws and a feral temper, she's just like what we've all once been, a wide-eyed kid who looks up to heroes and their stories. If Logan and Charles's perspectives are two different ways of looking at the past, then Laura represents looking ahead to the future. Her collection of X-Men comics in the film, which are stylized almost exactly after vintage X-Men comics in the real world, shows us a young girl who has grown up idolizing the mutants that came before her. And we can infer that an entire generation before her felt the same way.
Oh yeah, Charles, we got ourselves an X-Men fan.
Having grown up under traumatic circumstances, these stories have likely been the only thing that she's had to look up to.
Fantasy, okay, see that? Those are the names of the people who just made this... They made this whole thing up.
When Logan dies, the mutant children that have been under his protection provide him with a makeshift funeral, and it's these children that bring the whole reflective meta-narrative full circle. These kids are the childlike souls within us all that have grown up under the shadow of the superhero phenomenon and who, like Laura and Charles before her, want to see the ideal of heroism live on for generations to come, in spite of the world becoming a darker place by the day. The superhero phenomenon has had an impact on society and pop culture in too many ways to count. Chief among these ways, however, is how heroes have served as role models and champions of ideals. While the character of Wolverine isn't known exactly for having a mild manner or a sunny disposition, the implications of Logan greatly exceed just the likes of Wolverine. The film leaves us contemplating how credible these old-school principles are in a world that has completely lost its innocence, but also suggests that in order for there to be a future worth looking forward to, it's imperative that these ideals live on in the hearts of generations to come.